Good morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe alongside Nick Wright, Kevin Wilds, Chris Broussard with us on a Tuesday morning. Great show for you today. Do the Bucks need to win a title in order to keep their superstar Giannis? We'll toss that around. Aaron Rodgers ranked out of the NFL's top 50. We'll tell you why. And Julian Edelman, is he just a product of Tom Brady? We will discuss all of that, but we will start this morning with the return of the NBA, now less than 8 weeks away. Barely enough time to focus on what's on the line for some of the big-name stars on some of the big-name organizations. Don't feel bad for us. We're going to fit it all in. And by we, obviously, I mean Nick. Nick made a list of the top 10 players who have the most to gain from an NBA Finals win. So here we go, Nick. We're going to start at the bottom. Now we're here. 10 through 8. You got Chris Middleton, Pascal Siakam, and your guy, LeBron James. Take us through 10 through 8 here, Nick.
All right, so I think some people will be surprised to see LeBron that low. I'll explain that in a moment. For Middleton, if the Bucks win the title, it means Giannis stays and Chris Middleton can potentially go on a little Scottie Pippen 2.0 path where you're a star but not a superstar, but you get the pay of a star. I guess Scottie didn't get that. And you get without all the expectations. Pascal Siakam, if the Raptors win the title, he catapults himself into a top 10 current player and is the best player on a championship team. And by the way, they are the 2 seed in the East. And then there's LeBron. Broussard, I know you're going to say LeBron should be way higher, but if you're already the GOAT, how much does one more accolade mean? When Wayne Gretzky had 8 Hart trophies, the 9th didn't mean that much. He was already clearly the best to have ever done it over Gordie Howe. So LeBron, it would be the first player to be Finals MVP for 3 different teams. He would bring glory back to Los Angeles after an incredibly difficult year for that city, that franchise, and for the NBA. But I think there are 7 people, Broussard, that have more to gain by winning a title this year than LeBron.
You are so wrong. You got LeBron way too low, Nick. All right. First of all, you're the only guy that thinks he's the GOAT, all right, especially after the last dance.
Well, I'm not the only guy.
He needs to strengthen his argument. And a 4th ring, a 10th trip to the finals definitely strengthens his argument. As you said, he becomes the first guy to ever lead 3 teams to a championship. But also he avoids that distinction, that negative distinction of also being the only Laker of his stature never to win a championship with the franchise. Elgin Baylor, but he's not quite LeBron's stature. But all the other greats on LeBron's air won titles with the Lakers. So that's the thing. And here's the thing you're really missing, Nick. This is the biggest. He's in his 17th year. He's 35 years old. He'll be 36 when the season basically starts next year. We don't know. I would agree. I think LeBron will be like a top 5 player next year, but we don't know that. At that age, you fall off quickly. So maybe it's next year, maybe it's 2 years or 3 years from now, but it's uncertain. Kawhi, who you have, we'll see him on the list later, he has more chances down the road to win championship. This could very well be LeBron's last best chance to win a title. So that's what you're missing.
Nick, the worst thing I have to say on this show, Broussard, is to Nick's defense. I'd rather never say that at all. But to Nick's defense, he's not the only one who thinks LeBron's the GOAT after the last dance. They did another poll, and Nick single-handedly took credit for about 26% of basketball fans thinking LeBron is the GOAT. Correct. So to Nick's defense, you're kind of right there, Nick. I think Siakam is fascinating. He would catapult up crazy, Nick. They're playing. They've got a higher win percentage this year than they did last year, but still no one's talking about them. I also think LeBron's got to get to 5 championships, Nick. I know you don't want a ring count, but if he got this one and got another one, then I think that 26% could go up to 40 or maybe even 49%.
Well, I'll be very quick here. First of all, I did leave one thing out, that if the Lakers do win the title, I assume we will get a Last Dance 2. We'll get another 10 hours of Jordan stuff because he's not going to have it. But also, we could have just replayed Broussard's take from a year ago after when LeBron was coming back from his groin injury. Could be tough for the Lakers. LeBron, 34 years old, year 16. Don't know how many years are left for him. Like, people can continue doubting the older LeBron as he continues to do things no one's ever done at his age in the league, but we'll see. But Jenna, what do we have next?
It's true. Just like everyone doubted the older Tom Brady, and as he got older, he actually kept winning. All right, Nick, 5 through 7. Anthony Davis, Joel Embiid, and Russell Westbrook. Why these three?
All right, so Russ, this would be the final piece on his resume. He's won an MVP. He's averaged a triple-double multiple times. He's won a scoring title. He's won an assist title. If the Rockets win the title, he's a top 25 all-time player. Joel Embiid, it would be very interesting for him. It would be finally realizing his full potential. And one could argue, does Joel Embiid become, if they win the title, the third best international player we've seen? Akeem, Dirk, Embiid. Akeem and Dirk have been the only guys that are international players to lead their teams, be the best player on a team for a championship team. And then for Anthony Davis, Broussard, it would validate all of the stuff that happened last year. He would follow in the great line of Laker big men from Mike into Wilt to Kareem to Shaq. And it would essentially, to me, guarantee that he's a Laker for life. So for me, those are the guys 5, 6, 7 that have the most to gain.
I think Westbrook needs to be higher because, look, if you look over the last few months, Nick, Westbrook's numbers are tremendous. They're right there with Harden's. And if the Rockets were to win the championship, they really don't have any shot. But if they were to win it, and it's very plausible, Westbrook could be the finals MVP. I'm not saying I would probably favor Harden to get it, but Westbrook could very well lead them to that. And then you're looking at a guy with 3 straight seasons of triple-doubles and then a championship. Oh, because he could end up leading the team rather than Harden. So I think Westbrook should be higher on this list.
Yeah, I agree with you. It'd be the sort of the Rockets double whammy. I think right now Harden and Westbrook are those guys that are in that weird space of MVPs but not champions. And you see, like when Garnett got his championship with the Celtics, all of a sudden he went way up and he wasn't in that Steve Nash, Barkley never was an MVP but never won a championship, Nick.
So the idea that if the Rockets win, it could be via Westbrook being the best player is an interesting one that to be totally candid, I hadn't fully thought about. I assumed it would be playing a great Robin role, almost an overqualified Robin role. If they were to win, they were to win the title and he were to be Finals MVP, yeah, then maybe he would jump a few spots on this list. I was looking at it more as him being the best supporting actor in the finals. But Jenna, what do we got next?
All right, let's move on. Revealing numbers 4 through 2 on your list of players with the most to gain from winning a championship. Now, this one surprised me. Jason Tatum, Kawhi Leonard, and Giannis. Tatum, Nick, that one really stood out. Take us through this part of your list.
Well, yeah, I mean, if the Celtics win the title, it's going to be because Tatum elevates his game to a couple levels or 3 levels to a place we haven't seen him play consistently yet at any point in his career. And that's no shade on Tatum. He's still a very young player. He's still on his rookie contract. But if the Celtics win the title, he becomes a Celtic legend. Celtic fans like Wilds get to clown me about my Tatum tears forever. He gets the Supermax contract he's going to get either way this offseason. But now, after Tatum, you talk about the guys with a real chance at it and the guys with the most to gain. For Kawhi, if they win the title, he does get to not carry the interim best player alive belt. He gets to call himself best player alive. And folks like me can criticize how he handles the regular season, but given the fact that he has had 2 separate, one was shortened due to injury, magnificent playoff runs. I'm not talking about the finals MVP that he didn't deserve 6 years ago. I'm talking about the year that Zaza hurt him, and then also last year. If he follows that up with another unbelievable playoff run and finals performance, you start talking about him as one of the greatest playoff performers ever. And then there's Giannis. Giannis, if they win the title, not only is he the unanimous best player in the world after winning 2 straight MVPs and winning a championship, he also would have won a title earlier than LeBron, earlier than Michael, earlier than Steph, earlier than KD. and you start to want, and he'll stay in Milwaukee forever on a $250 million deal. So those, to me, there's only one player in the league with more to gain than those guys, Broussard, from a title this year.
I am shocked. I think there's two glaring omissions on your list, or that aren't on your list, Nick. Luka Doncic and Jimmy Butler. Luka's got probably more to gain than even Jason Tatum. Remember earlier in the year, we were debating who's the best 21-year-old ever. Is it LeBron? Is it Luka? If Luka were to lead Dallas to the championship, it's Luka hands down. He catapults himself, as you mentioned about Kawhi, into already is he the best player in the world if they were to win it. Maybe you left him off because it's unrealistic, but it's no more unrealistic than some of these other guys. And then I also think Jimmy Butler. Now, I get it. Miami's certainly not a favorite, but they are 2-0 against Milwaukee. And in Bam Adebayo, they've got a guy who, kind of like Kawhi Leonard last year against Giannis, has been able to slow him down, and then the Bucks' other players can't step up and make up the difference that Giannis doesn't give them. So I'm just saying Miami is at least in the hunt for the Eastern Conference Championship. And if they were somehow to win it, then Jimmy Butler moves up. I think both of those guys are definitely ahead of Chris Middleton in terms of things to gain.
Nick, I think I know the answer because we went over it in the meeting, so I'll let you take it. But I'll pile on and say, like, why isn't Ben Simmons on this list?
Well, Ben Simmons isn't on the list because I think everyone on the list has more to gain than Simmons. So that's a separate category. Luka, Jimmy Butler, Nikola Jokic, Zion Williamson, those guys aren't on the list because they have a 0% chance of winning the title. Like, everyone else here has a legitimate, plausible, just maybe they could win the title. There's the guys that you're right. Hell, Zion would be number one, right? Greatest rookie season we've ever seen, maybe in sports history. Comes on, plays 25 regular season games, gets his team in the playoffs, wins the championship. But they're at 0%. The Mavs are at 0%. The Heat are at 0%. And to my friends in Denver, of which I have none at this point, the Nuggets are at 0%. That's why those players were left off. Now, Jenna, the guy at number one, Broussard's going to say is at 0%, but he's wrong. Who do we got at number one, Jenna?
I was just going to say, if it's all about percentage of wins, then I don't know if Broussard's going to agree with this, a percentage to win. The player with the most to prove by winning the title this season is a slightly slimmer, more svelte James Harden.
Yeah.
Nick, tell us why.
Well, if they win the title, he's not only one of the 20 greatest players of all time, hands down, inarguable. It ends all debate about Harden. Daryl Morey gets to be right that he is one of, if not the greatest pure scorer ever. There are no more buts about Harden if they win the title. He has an MVP. He has 3 second-place finishes. He has a scoring title. He's got an assist title. He's done everything. He's 6th man of the year. He's done everything you can do in this league. If they win the title, Broussard, you start talking about him as one of the greatest players to ever play the game, because all of the knocks on Harden are about playoff failures. If he erases that by going through the juggernauts in LA, or the juggernaut and the alleged juggernaut in LA, the Lakers and the Clippers, and then beating Giannis and the Bucks or whomever comes out of the East, he is without question. You start saying, is he the 3rd best shooting guard ever? He's definitely one of the 20 greatest players ever. So he has more to gain, Broussard, than anybody else in the league.
Believe it or not, Nick, I would agree with you that he's slightly at the top, because for everything you mentioned, it would catapult him historically. There's no doubt about it. But like I said, I do agree. It's not quite 0%, but it's like 0.5 or something like that chance that they win the championship. But as I said, Nick, and I think you agree, the difference between Harden and Westbrook, it is slim. It's not Jordan Pippen. It's not LeBron Anthony Davis or LeBron Kyrie. It is close, and Westbrook could easily end up being the guy that leads them. Now, Harden still gets credit for it, obviously, But Westbrook could actually be the guy that leads them to the championship. I would favor that it's Harden. If you ask me to pick who I think would do it, it would be Harden. But there is a great chance that it's Westbrook.
Welcome back. We're now joined by Eric Mangini. We're drawing a blank, Coach. Here we go, starting with Vikings Pro Bowl running back Dalvin Cook, who will reportedly not be showing up to training camp or beyond until he receives what he determines to be a reasonable deal. In case you're wondering, Dalvin has 1 year at $1.3 million left on his contract. What do you think, Nick? Could holding out without a reasonable extension, let me rephrase that, holding out without a reasonable extension is blank, the name of the segment.
Terrible advice. Listen, this has Melvin Gordon written all over it, where I think he's getting bad advice from an agent. One of the unfortunate realities of the CBA for players in Dalvin Cook's position is if he does not show up to day one of training camp, his contract tolls, which would mean next offseason he is not an unrestricted free agent. He is a restricted free agent. He loses the year of service time. So the Vikings are in a total power position here. And to me, the only counterpunch Dalvin Cook has isn't really a counterpunch. Show up, be awesome. This offseason, they'll probably franchise tag you because that's life as a running back. And then you can hold out and actually hold their feet to the fire. But there was a report out of Charlotte that he wants, or I'm sorry, out of Minnesota, that he wants Christian McCaffrey money. That is never happening. And if he's going to hold out waiting for that, I think he's going to end up costing himself money, Coach. So I think it'd be terrible advice, even if he deserves it.
I don't know how to respond because I am in utter shock that Nick hasn't said he should hold out. He deserves as much money as he possibly can get. This is a travesty. Who are you? Where is Nick Wright? I want him back because I agree with you. This is risky for Dalvin Cook and not just because of the fact that they have the power contractually and you don't get the accredited season, but also when you look at his production, he had 2 years where it was injury prone, and then he comes back and he has a good season this past season. But if you look at the second half of the season, he averaged under 3 yards a carry the last 8 games and through the playoffs. So those numbers aren't as eye-popping as it may look in totality. And they've got another young guy, Alexander Madison, who averages 4.6 yards a carry. So you make this stand when your production hasn't been consistent, and they've not got another guy that could potentially do it, and you're creating problems for yourself.
So I went with Jen. I went financial roller coaster, and here's why I think it's tough to beat Dalvin Cook. All right, we don't know how many fans are going to be in the stadium. There's a good chance that Ian Rappaport reported that salary cap might go down by $40 million. So you see NBA players had to take 25% pay cut. Baseball doesn't know what they're doing, trying to prorate stuff or trying to have all sorts of math, which is not getting the season off the ground. So we don't know what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen to the salary cap next year. To come in and say, like, hey, I need an extension. And maybe that's why he's saying it's a reasonable extension. They're trying to put that in. So it's like, we know there's a lot of uncertainty, but I think it's going to be a financial roller coaster if the salary goes down next year and then skyrockets back up in 2022.
Yeah, I agree with all of you, especially you, Nick. We saw what happened with Melvin Gordon last year. All right, last week, Pro Football Focus released their top 50 players headed into the 2020 season. How about this? Among those left off that list, Aaron Rodgers. As they explained, Rodgers has become ever more evidently part of the problem in Green Bay. So, Nick, Rodgers being left off of Pro Football Focus's top 50 players list is blank.
Yeah, so I only looked at the quarterbacks who were on this list because Pro Football Focus has just an absolute love affair with interior offensive and defensive linemen. So you just look at the quarterbacks who were on there. And my answer is this is Brady biased. Tom Brady came in the top 25, and if you read their little recap, it's nothing but excuses for his lack of production. Oh, he was the system and the receivers, and it's not Brady, and we love him so much. And meanwhile, Rodgers part of the problem. while Rodgers didn't have a receiver like Julian Edelman, Rodgers certainly didn't have a head coach and offensive coordinator combo like Belichick and Josh McDaniels. So if you're going to have Brady in the top 25, not having Rodgers in the top 50 is lunacy. So, Coach, I say it's Brady biased.
Wow, again, I agree with you that you're unhappy with this list. I thought this was a list that was secretly written by you to promote the greatness of Patrick Mahomes. I don't know how you could possibly leave Aaron Rodgers off a list of the top 50 players. It's not the top quarterbacks, whatever your bias is, but to think that he's not part of the top 50 players after going 13-3 and he's got 26 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Look at it statistically. He overcame a rookie head coach. It's reason after reason that he should be on this list. And look, this isn't even one of my top 50 lists. This wouldn't even be one of my top 50 Nick Wright lists. So, wow, it's just wrong.
Coach is on fire.
Nick, I hate to say it, Coach. I agreed with Nick, too. I had Brady at 24. It makes no sense. Suppose in a hypothetical world, the Packers were like, whoa, this Jordan Love thing has become a disaster. They call the Bucs and say, straight up, will you trade Rodgers for Brady? They'd be like, yeah. The Bucs would do that. The Packers wouldn't do it. So I think everyone knows Rodgers is better than Brady. So I agree with Nick, too. It's a weird day.
All right, speaking of lists, guys, NFL.com released their top rookie running backs who will be most productive in 2020. Coming in at number 1, Chiefs 32nd overall pick out of LSU, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Sort of surprising. Nick insisting we included in the show. Sort of not surprising. Nick, the ceiling for rookie running back Edwards-Helaire this season is blank.
Listen, you know I don't like to be prone to hyperbole, so I quelled my initial first instinct, which was to say Super Bowl MVP. Because now Damian Williams, the Chiefs' starting running back last year, some would argue should have won Super Bowl MVP. Instead, they gave it to the best player in the league, Patrick Mahomes, and I understand that. So I don't want to be over the top. So the ceiling for him is Offensive Rookie of the Year. In that offense with those weapons where you got a double Kelsey, you got a double Hill, he's going to have so many opportunities for huge plays, so many red zone opportunities. He'll have a ton of touchdowns. He'll have a ton of receiving yards. So I temper your enthusiasm, but I think Offensive Rookie of the Year is a fair threshold for him to reach, Coach.
Yeah, you don't like to be prone to hyperbole like I don't like nachos. This is as good as it gets for a rookie running back because everybody has to worry about stopping the passing game. And it doesn't matter which running back came into that system, whether it was a rookie, a veteran, whoever it is, when everybody is working to stop the passing game, you get lighter box. You don't have as many people trying to stop the run. And you should outnumber your opponents in the running game whenever you decide to do that. So for any back coming into the system based off how they're structured and how they can hurt you right now, it's all going to start with the passing game, which should open it up for the running game significantly.
So, Coach, I'm interested in this because the Chiefs ran the ball percentage-wise like 23rd most in the league, and I know they got Patrick Mahomes slinging it around. I'm still a Jonathan Taylor guy just because I thought the Colts run the ball more. And I know, Nick, it's passing league, passing first, but these are great teams. I think you count Lamar's rushing yards there. But Ravens, Niners, Vikings, Titans, Colts, I think Jonathan Taylor is going to go crazy. It's not just because our producer, Sam Pepper, and my wife both went to Wisconsin.
Yeah, not at all because of those reasons. On to Daniel Jones now. The Giants quarterback led the NFL with 18 fumbles last season. So tops on his list of things to do this offseason, fix the fumbles. Daniel Jones reportedly working with his former Duke head coach David Cutcliffe to correct his biggest flaw. His second biggest flaw, by the way, was terrible penmanship, but that's not important now. Nick, Daniel Jones working on his fumbles this offseason is blank.
Well, first of all, shout out to the writer of this story on The Athletic. It only took him 39 words to invoke the names Eli and Peyton Manning. I don't know if you guys know, Daniel Jones worked with David Cutcliffe, same people as Eli and Peyton. Eli and Peyton, David Cutcliffe, Daniel Jones, David Cutcliffe. That's every story about this guy is about David damn Cutcliffe. Good for him. But it's long overdue. And it's something David Cutcliffe couldn't get him to work on at Duke, because at Duke he fumbled the ball 13 times. So listen, this is a massive issue. Everyone wants to point at the really pretty throws he made, and he did have some really nice moments last year. But I've never in my life watching the NFL seen a player fumble at the rate he fumbles the football at. And it was a problem for him in college. It was a problem for him the moment he got into the league. That great first game he had where he took over for Eli and led the comeback against the Bucs. He fumbled twice in that game. It's one of the best games he's ever played. So, Coach, I don't know if this is going to be a fixable trait for him.
Again, I agree with you. I don't know if the best approach is to head back to your college coach and work with him for a few days a year when you're with him every day and the problem didn't get fixed. It's wildly optimistic. When you have a weakness in the NFL, everybody tries to exploit it. It's like sharks to blood. And there's a whole section of defensive teaching called ball disruption, where you focus on how you can separate the ball from players. Awesome. And what their weaknesses are. And this is one of those things where you have it, everybody takes their shot at you because they know they've got a great opportunity to create fumbles. And it's hard to simulate that situation and practice it in real time.
Wow. Okay, that was awesome, Coach. I went with Romo-esque. Romo had 32 fumbles in his first 3 years, then 30 for his last 8 years. He got hurt a little bit, but his 5 of those years were injury-free. And surprise, surprise, a lot of Dallas Cowboys people on the offensive side of the ball there in New York. So I'm going Romo-esque. I think this gets fixed.
Back here with Coach Mangini, and we're talking the new look Patriots. No Tom Brady, but yes, Julian Edelman. Their Super Bowl MVP wide receiver returns this season with a bit of a vengeance, looking to show the league that this Patriots team can still be competitive, Wilds. One anonymous Patriot thinks Edelman is even more motivated this season because of this. He said, quote, Julian is Julian. He hates excuses. He hates to lose. He's already got the red expletive about this season. People thinking we're no good and that he's just a product of Brady. Coach, the two spent 11 years together. You think Edelman is just a product of Tom Brady?
I don't think he's solely a product of Tom Brady, but I don't know if he's seen any of the prequels starring Wes Welker or Deion Branch or Troy Brown. They all kind of look the same, and they all have the same protagonist. And look, I'm a big Office fan, and I liked it the most when Michael Scott was there, and I didn't like it after he left. I think that things look different when Tom Brady leaves. The chemistry that these guys have had, the understanding of how the coverages work and where each other's going to be, that's not going to exist anymore. And the unselfishness that Tom approached throwing the football and his willingness to take these short passes, it's not the approach that every quarterback has. Now, whether or not they can get Brian Hoyer to do that or Jarrett the Javelin to do that, it remains to be seen. But the success, that the type that has worked in New England is very similar to what we've seen with Edelman. And look, maybe it'll be different. It's just hard to think it will.
So historically, I assume it's going to be the same, Coach. And I don't think when we talk about Edelman's legacy as a player, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that he's a product of a good environment, right? So like Bill Gates had a computer lab in like the late 60s and he became Bill Gates. That's the same with Edelman. At a certain point, you accumulate enough accolades that people separate you from like the advantageous situation that he was in. And we look at playoff receiving yards, he's third all time. Do I think that makes him a Hall of Famer? Yeah, I do. It's Jerry Rice, Julian Edelman, and Michael Irvin. Pretty good. And I know, Nick, you're going to be like, well, he's just compiling, he's compiling. But there's enough handful of like wonderful catches like this one in the Super Bowl that he wins the MVP. We win that game. It becomes like a legendary performance that I think, yeah, he's great. So should he have a little bit of, extra motivation this year to prove to everybody that he's not just a product of Brady? Probably. But to me, he stands on his own.
Okay. That is such utter hogwash. I mean, I'm excited. You know who watched that segment and started preparing his Hall of Fame speech? David Tyree. He has an even more impressive Super Bowl catch and an even more iconic moment. If that's what gets you in, okay, listen. You know what I wish I would have had, and shame on me for not having it ready? All-time NBA playoff scorers and minutes leaders, because you know what you'll see? Damn, Derek Fisher must have been amazing. Or he was just on some fantastic teams and played forever. Guys, we know what Julian Edelman is. He is obviously a product of Brady, and more power to him. He hitched his wagon to the brightest star the NFL has ever seen. They had a great relationship. Julian managed to keep himself out of trouble until Brady left, and then he instantly started getting in Twitter battles and got arrested and stuff. But listen, he's been great alongside Brady, and he has had some great playoff moments. But the numbers are undeniable. There's 3 players in NFL history with at least 500 catches who have fewer or a lower yards per catch than Edelman. One is Jason Witten, a plotting tight end. The other is Frank Wycheck, a plotting tight end. And the other is Danny Amendola, who was Julian Edelman alongside Julian Edelman. Like, Wilds, you say it's not, and I want to kick it back to you for a moment, Wilds. You say it's not the scheme. Doesn't every scheme want guys to run past defenders, to, like, get yards after the catch? Wouldn't that be the scheme if he had the ability to do it?
I don't know. I think the scheme's to win games, and he seems like he's got 3 Super Bowl rings, Nick. So to me, the scheme's to win games. I know in your world, like, rings don't really count. LeBron can lose, and Patrick Mahomes can win 1, and he's all of a sudden the best. But in the New England world, rings count, and he's got 3 rings, so it's good with me. Coach,
Jenna, this highlight package,
right?
Hold on.
Wait. Go ahead, Nick.
I apologize, Jenna. This highlight package, I just wanted it to keep running because there's one play on here where he gets legitimate yards after the catch, and there is an awful illegal crackback block to open him up. Like, the only way he's streaking down the field is if one of his teammates cheats for him, Jenna. I mean, we know what he is.
Oh, no.
All right, look,
we
can argue till the cows come home whether Edelman is a product of Brady or a product of Belichick. But Coach, let's just take a little bit of a step back here, a broader look. What does post-Tom Brady life look like on the New England Patriots? Is it just going to be about what Edelman can do or what Stidham can do? Take a step back and tell me what life post-Tom Brady is going to look like on this team.
Well, it's going to be a lot more difficult on Sundays for Kevin than it has been for the last 20 years because you're going from the greatest of all time to 2 guys that are trying to figure it out. And the system is a good system. And Nick, you can't take away from his production. Okay, there still is. You still have to be able to get open. You still have to understand how coverages work. And granted, it's not the most impressive athletic skill set or numbers that you could have for a receiver, but it's smart football. It's understanding how to read away from coverages, how to get open, and there's something to be said for that. Now, the quarterbacks that are coming in, they'll be in the same system, but whether or not they truly understand it the way that Tom did, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen right away. And the trust factor between the 2 players, it's hard to replace that as well.
Wilds, listen, I feel like you feel attacked by me here, and I don't mean to. I'm trying to give credit, though, where it's due, and I firmly believe there are 50 guys in NFL history, at least, that could have plugged and played in Edelman's spot for the last 11 years and had the same production. Most of them probably could have done it without getting dinged for a steroid suspension along the way that we just act like didn't happen. But like I think Brady is obviously the secret sauce here. And I feel like that is a compliment to your favorite player ever. And I think we're going to see Julian Edelman probably either a year from now be in Tampa Bay or a year from now be on Nesson breaking down Patriot games. That would be my guess.
Okay. So, look, I'm not arguing that luck is a huge factor of this. I really don't. I think Bill Gates is lucky. I think Steve Jobs is lucky. I don't believe in these, singular geniuses. I think they have to be put into situations that they can take advantage of. Do I think that he's going to be on Nesson next year? No, I don't think so. I think that they're going to go 12-4. And then how many years does he have left? Coach, what has he got, 2 years left on his contract? So I feel good about him and Jarrett the Javelin.
Just quickly, because you've now brought up Bill Gates, and I'm sorry, Coach, but you've now brought up Bill Gates and Steve Jobs twice. Julian Edelman is not Bill Gates, not Steve Jobs. He's not Mark Zuckerberg. He's the dumber of the two Winklevoss twins. He just happened to be around the greatness, and he's been along for the ride since then, and that's why we know him.
It's just football osmosis, Wilds. That's all it is. He's been absorbing over the years.
Winklevosses.
Back here with Chris Broussard. Time for Stores to start your morning, gentlemen. So we've got an NBA return date, July 31st. Now we got some other important tentative dates. Let's run through it. August 16, 17, that would be the play-in tournament. August 18th, start of the first round. September 1st, start of the second round. The conference finals would start on September 15th. And game one of the NBA finals would tip off on September 30th, which obviously, as you guys know, is National Chewing Gum Day. Nick, what'd you make of the schedule?
Well, I think they've laid it out as well as you can. For most of us, the ideal would have been if they could have started 15 or maybe even 30 days earlier than they are. But due to obvious and legitimate concerns about coronavirus, they wanted to delay it as far as possible. I do think when you see that schedule laid out, you see that it is a little overwrought, the idea that the NBA is going to be going head-to-head with the juggernaut that is the NFL. You're going to essentially be down to your final four teams by the time the NFL really kicks off in the second week of September. And then I'm sure once the finals get going, the NBA will try to avoid Sunday nights as much as possible, and if possible, also Thursday and Monday nights. And so I don't think there's going to be that much conflict, and I think people are so starved for sports, Wilds, people are going to be tuning in even to the 8 regular season games at the very beginning of August on a nightly basis.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the best sports television viewing experience of all time this fall. So we've jam-packed, log-jammed everything there, and there's still the Kentucky Derby might be run. We've got a bunch of tennis tournaments. We've got a ton of stuff coming up. Something to keep your eye on, Broussard, the nickname watch. Reggie Jackson, if they get to the finals, Reggie Jackson of the Clippers has a chance to rename himself as Mr. October. Keep your eye on it.
Love it. I love that.
Yeah, they have gotten a lot of criticism. From some people that think they're starting too late. Why you wait till July 31st? This is Adam Silver, a players commissioner, listening to his players say, look, we need time to get in shape. This is not a normal training camp where guys are playing in the summer, guys are in shape. Guys haven't been playing for 3-4 months. They're going to need time to get in shape, to develop chemistry, and most importantly, to avoid injury. So that's why they're starting so late. My two concerns are, one, playing every other day, which I think is going to be tough on guys for those 8 games because they're not going to be in great shape, and I think injuries could become a possibility. And then the start of the next season. Right now, it's scheduled for it to begin a training camp a few weeks after the finals end, which I think is not fair to the teams that go deep into the playoffs.
All right, on to the Raptors now. A recent report says Toronto's interest in Giannis in 2021 free agency is, quote, no secret. Nick, any shot Giannis winds up in Toronto?
No. The idea that if Giannis leaves Milwaukee, it's going to be because the big lights of a major American coastal city draw him. Be it Miami, if the Knicks I don't think are ever going to get it together, or a team out in California. he's not going to leave Milwaukee to go to Canada. And I think our friend Adam Silver would absolutely have a fit if he did, because while Toronto's a great city and a major metropolitan city, because it's in Canada and the television ratings and all of that doesn't work the way the NBA wants it to, I believe Giannis is a Buck for life. I don't think he's going to follow the Lou Alcindor Kareem path and leave Milwaukee for a bigger market. I think the Bucks make the finals this year. It's enough for Giannis to re-sign, and I think he's a Buck for life. But if he does leave, it ain't going to be to go to Toronto Wilds.
It would be a television disaster, but Giannis has a deep personal connection with Masai, and Masai has wanted to draft him when he was in Denver. Now in Toronto, they have a very deep personal connection, so I wouldn't be surprised if this happened, Broussard.
Yeah, look, I would put Golden State and Miami ahead of Toronto, but you're right, Wiles. I mean, Masai Ujiri, the president of the Raptors, native African like Giannis. There's that connection there. They're an international team. Giannis, I don't think, has a lot of the same draws that the typical American-born star has. So, again, I wouldn't say Toronto's got a great shot, but I definitely wouldn't write it off to the degree that Nick does.
Broussard, stop with buying into this Golden State nonsense. Golden State is capped out, and Milwaukee's not taking Andrew Wiggins and a 2028 first rounder for Giannis. Golden State is no chance of it, Broussard. You and everyone else, this is part of your guys' propaganda campaign trying to prop back up the Warriors. They blew it with the D'Angelo Russell trade. Giannis is not going to be a Warrior. Never gonna happen.
But how do you really feel about it, though, Nick?
You're lucky they
On
moved
to the Lakers,
Neil.
where ESPN's Dave McMenamin had this to say about Boogie Cousins. With the extra time off to rehab, combined with potential expanded rosters, will Cousins make his return to L.A.? The former All-Star center would give the Lakers the stretch five they missed most of the season. And with crowd noise a non-factor in Orlando's empty arenas, he could certainly have an impact as a vocal bench presence. Nick, can Boogie make a bigger impact with his play or with his voice?
None of the above. Listen, I feel terribly for what's happened to Boogie. I don't think he's going to be a guy that you're going to be able to give 10 minutes a night to after he had suffered another injury and I mean, he's not even on the team right now. But I think the worst possible option is this idea, Wilds, that he's going to be on the bench chirping at the refs. Fairly or not, the referees in this league hate Boogie. And they're human beings. Yeah. If Boogie is there just barking at them, that's going to work against the Lakers. So I like Boogie. I think he's gotten a bad rap from a lot of people in this league. But this idea that he's going to be their designated trash talker to the officials, I think has disaster written all over it for the Lakers, Wilds.
Hey, Rob Pelinka, sign him up. McMenamin just told you. This is amazing. The fact that there's going to be no crowd and Boogie will have no hindrance to just yell at whoever he wants. He can yell at the other team. He could yell at the TV people that get the replays, yell at the refs, yell at the coaches. Everybody can hear him at all times. I think it's perfect, Broussard.
Look, yeah, Boogie, if they were to sign him, he would bring more on the bench. I think it's in terms of encouraging teammates. He's well-liked in that team. He's fit into the culture. He's obviously got a great relationship with Anthony Davis. He brings nothing on the court. He actually could be a detriment on the court. As good as he is individually, the last thing they need is Boogie. He's a big man who shoots too many threes, who doesn't play great defense. And they already have a nice roster of big men that they rotate in and out, all of whom defend and protect the rim pretty much. So they don't need Boogie as a player, but maybe they bring him on to help on the bench, as you mentioned, but also to keep him away from another team. That's a possibility, too. Just sign him so he doesn't go play somewhere else.
Boogie, charity case at this point. On to Knicks adult Slovenian son, Luka Doncic. Despite rumors of weight gain, Luka reportedly has stayed in shape by playing a little pickup ball.
I like the
since returning from Slovenia back in March. Nick, expectations for Luka once the season resumes?
Oh,
listen,
look at this.
I think Luka's going to be awesome. Luka's going to finish top 5 in the. I can't watch this video anymore. You guys got to take it off. I think Luka's going to finish top 5 in the MVP
love this
voting.
video, Nick.
My large adult Slovenian son. And Wilds, Broussard hates this opinion of mine. If the bracket stays the same and we get Clippers Mavs in the first round, that series is seeing a 6th game. Luka will win a game or 2 by himself. And we're seeing a 6th game, and Broussard's feeling awful nervous in his palatial New Jersey estate. Mark it down, Wilds.
I will, and then it'll be a beautiful moment if once you guys are there and you can sort of give him a big hug after the game, Nick. I don't know what the bubble is like if they allow fathers inside the bubble, but I think they should with your matching backpacks.
Distant.
Nick, I just got a text from Luka that he's disowning you since you left him off your list of 10 players
Legal
for stuff in the game. You gave him absolutely no chance to win. This is your son. What are you talking about? So look, if the Mavericks, they're only a game and a half out of 6th place or 5th place, really. So if they can move up and somewhere finish between 3 and 6, they might be able to pull off a first-round upset. Wouldn't necessarily pick them, but that's their best shot. If they stay in 7 Clippers, they're obviously done.
We got to move on. Rookie of the Year debate between Zion and Ja, guys. Our friends at Fox Bet are giving the Grizzlies minus 160 odds to make the postseason, giving Zion's Pelicans plus 380 odds to make the postseason. Nick, will a playoff berth impact whether Ja or Zion win Rookie of the Year?
Ja's Rookie of the Year. Giannis is the MVP. Anthony Davis, your Defensive Player of the Year. Giannis maybe wins that one. That's the only award that's going to be close, Wilds. Nothing that's going to happen in the 2-week resumption of the regular season is going to affect Rookie of the Year or MVP, Wilds.
Nick is always auditioning to try to get a Rookie of the Year vote, which he does not have, but Broussard does have. Broussard, how was that audition to get him a vote?
I was just about to say, unlike Nick, I have a vote, and my vote goes to Ja. Ja, you got to be there. Play games.
Stop mocking the worst thing in my life.
You're doing a good job. You keep auditioning.
Stressing Nick out. See you tomorrow, everyone. Stay safe. Have a great day. He's gone. We lost him again.